Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. And very warm welcome to our fourth Leadership Energy Summit Asia. Very, very glad to have you here with us. A quick show of hands. How many of you were here with us last year? Welcome back. Welcome back. And how many of us have been to an event or program with Eclipse other than the Leadership Energy Summit? Again, welcome back. And for the rest of you who are here with us for the first time, welcome to the Leadership Energy Summit Asia 2016. What I'd like to do is give you a little bit of context of what this summit is all about, set us up in terms of what to expect for the next day, couple of days, and then introduce the first speaker. So that's what I'm going to do. Let's start with why leadership energy. What is this term called leadership energy? We invented this term about 7 years ago because leadership, in our opinion, is one of the most confused and one of the most misunderstood words in English language. And the dictionary is to blame. So we did this to set the record straight. What do I mean that it's the most confused and the most misunderstood word in English language? Well, the first myth about leadership is that followership and pleasing is leadership. Now, that may sound a little surprising to you, but let me explain. Right from when we are little kids, or rather, when as parents, we love children who listen to us and obey, right? So right from when they are little, we whack them into obeying. I love this word, whack the fella. It's a word I learned after coming to Malaysia. Love it. Malaysian expressions, by the way, are absolutely fantastic. Whack the fella. So right when they are young, we whack them into followership, and we reward that behavior in the name of leadership, isn't it? Then, when we go to school and college, teachers and professors do exactly the same thing. If you do exactly what the professor or the teacher says in class and reproduce exactly that in your term paper or in your exam, you do really well, and you're called the leader of the class, right? So I will never forget, during my MBA many, many moons ago, I took an elective on international relations. So this was a course about U.S., then USSR, relationship during the Cold War, the balance of power between these two countries. And this professor had a very interesting take on what the balance of power between the two countries was, what the relationship was. Unfortunately, none of us agreed with him, and most people didn't agree with him. But he said this, look, I will never penalize you for your political opinion. I've given you my deductive logic and reasoning as to why I believe this was the balance of power. What I need you to do in your term paper is to do exactly that. Give me your deductive logic and reasoning as to why you believe what you believe, and that'll be fine. I will grade you for your reasoning and not for your political opinion, so please think independently and write what you really want to write. So you say, wow, great guy. And as I was preparing for my term paper, I happened to meet a senior who had taken the same course last year. And I told him what the professor said. He says, no, don't believe a word of what he says. And so I took that advice, and I wrote exactly what I had heard in class, and I got an A grade. But I was only one of 2 people in the class that got an A grade. All those who thought independently and wrote what they really wanted got B's and C's. Again, through school and college, we whacked the fellas and into submission and called them leaders. Leadership is confused with followership. Now we get to the workplace. And you ask ordinary employees, what do you want from your boss? What kind of a boss do you want? And they describe things like, I want my boss to be nice to me. I want my boss to be kind to me. I want my boss to listen to me, to understand my feelings and my needs, give me flexibility, etc., etc., etc. In other words, employees describe what they want, which is not necessarily the same thing as what they need. So bosses, in most big companies anyway, what do they learn very quickly? I better please my subordinates, especially if my leadership performance is going to be measured by an employee engagement survey, and my scores of the employee engagement survey will determine my leadership performance and therefore at least a part of my bonus. If that's the case, very quickly I learn to become a pleaser. And what is pleasing? Another form of followership. And this is called leadership throughout the corporate career. And then finally, when you get into the boardroom and the CEO presents a brand new, audacious, bold, new vision and idea, what is the first thing many boards ask? The first question they ask is, where is the McKinsey report that shows the best practice cases and the 10 other companies that have done this successfully before? Again, followership is confused for leadership, whichever way we look, wherever we go. So that's the number one myth about leadership. It's been going on for 100 years, and we like to dispel that followership is not leadership. Another myth about leadership is that in order for me to be a good and effective leader, I must have adequate authority and empowerment. Somebody must empower me in order for me to be a great leader. And especially, middle to upper middle level, and even senior people in corporations tell us, they give me all these KPIs, they give us all these things to do and all these results to achieve, but they don't give us enough authority. And how can I be a great leader unless I have authority? Well, look at just 3 names from the 20th century, 3 of the most powerful names in leadership from east to west, from 3 different continents. Martin Luther King, Nelson Mandela, Mahatma Gandhi. What do these 3 people have in common? 0 leader authority, position, title, or office for much of their lives. Gandhi never, Mandela almost never, except for the last few years of his working life, and Martin Luther King also never. What does that tell us about the relationship between authority, position, empowerment, and leadership? Zip. Nothing. But that's, one of my popular articles in Forbes was called Powerful Victims. Why was it called Powerful Victims? Because I cannot even count anymore how many real powerful bosses have complained to us, say, about, I don't have adequate authority. People will give an arm and a leg to be in their position of authority, and they complain that they don't have adequate authority and therefore unable to lead. But there is absolutely no connection between authority and leadership, if you look at just those 3 names. Another myth. Eventually, somebody or the other, whenever we are talking about what is leadership, will say, but leaders are born. There's something God-given. There's something genetic. There's something heredity related with it. I have the leadership gene, you don't. Or you have the leadership gene, I don't. Now, I really wanted to prove that this is true. That leadership is that something special that is in some people and not in other people. Why did I want to prove this? Because if I proved it, we could shut down the $80 billion a year leadership development industry. Because it's something, that comes from there. So I spent 2 years of my life looking for proof. How can I find scientific or other evidence to show that it is God-given, it is genetic, it is to do with heredity, so that we can stop spending, or rather stop wasting $80 billion, and so put that $80 billion to better use, and probably I get a Nobel Prize in economics. But no such luck. I looked, and I looked, and I looked, and I could find no proof whatsoever that leadership had anything to do whatsoever with heredity or genetics. And I'm very fond of saying this, and some of you may have heard this before. A leader in you is born, but not at the time of your biological birth. A leader in you is born when 2 things happen in your life simultaneously. And the key word is simultaneously. 1, you feel deeply about the inadequacies of current reality. Something about today bothers you so much that you cannot sleep at night. And 2, you decide to do something about it. When both those things happen together, that's when the leader in you is born, and that happens much later than your biological birth date. So all these myths about leadership have been around for hundreds of years, and we need to dispel them. And that is why we talk about leadership energy, and we'll decode that for you in the next few minutes. The final myth, leadership can be learned through best practice case studies, role plays, and competency models. Raise your hand if you've been to a top business school for a course on leadership. Okay, quite a few of you. And let me describe what your course looked like. You went there for a week, 2 weeks, maybe 4 weeks, or even 8 weeks, and every day you read and discussed about 6 case studies. first in your breakfast group and then in the classroom. And all you did day after day, week after week in that program was case study, case study, case study, and case study. I see a lot of heads nodding because it is true. And top business schools will tell you that the best way to learn leadership is to read and discuss other people's mistakes so you can avoid them. No, business schools, you cannot learn leadership by reading and discussing other people's mistakes. You learn leadership in the school of hard knocks, by making your own mistakes, by falling down several times and then learning how to get up. That's the school of leadership. And there is no case study for that. Your own life has to become a case study. Role plays. Typical leadership training involves getting you into groups of 3 and practicing somebody else's 3-step formula. And after 45 minutes, when all 3 people in the triad can actually master copying that 3-step formula, all of them are declared leaders. Last time I checked the dictionary, copying somebody else's behavior was an act of followership, not leadership. And of course, my favorite are these competency models. This round picture that you see, I know you can't read this, but there's a reason why you can't read this, because nobody can. Competency models are my favorite. Let's look at what made leaders in our company successful in the last 20 years because they were such great souls and such great people. And let's codify their behavior in this diagram right here. And now let's teach that to you. If the closer you can emulate those behaviors, the more successful you will be in the future. Brilliant idea, but until 1985, when the world of work was pretty steady. Some speakers today are going to talk to you about how the world of work is changing, and I'll talk about that too in my session tomorrow. But today, the world changes faster than you can say, Salamat Datang. In those 2 words, already the world has changed. How can a rear view mirror competency model of copying somebody else's behavior be leadership? But that's what the $80 billion industry is made up of. And unfortunately, ladies and gentlemen, that is not leadership. Now, to understand what is leadership, let's just look at one picture. And that, as they say, a picture tells 1,000 words. Here is Dubai for you in about 15 years. And this remarkable transformation that seems never-ending is largely attributed to the vision and the passion and the energy of one man, Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum. Look at this. This is what we call leadership. This man was relentless in his focus, relentless in his pursuit of making this transformation happen. Let's listen to what he has to say about it.
Why do you want everything to be the biggest, the tallest?
Steve, why not? Why not? If you can have it in New York, what can we have it here?
Why are you in such a hurry? Most people would try and do all of this in a lifetime, not in 5 years.
I want my people to live better life now, to go to the high school now, to go to the good healthcare now, not after 20 years.
So what he was trying to do was create a better future. He had a burning desire to make his city, to make his emirate the best city in the world. That burning desire is what we call leadership. Leadership is the art of creating a better future. It is not a title, it is not a position, it is not a case study, it is not a competency model. It is that burning desire to create a better future. Now, before you think that Sheikh Mohammed could do that because he's the ruler of Dubai and it's because of the oil wealth of Dubai that he was able to do this, well, consider just this. Look at all the neighboring countries in the region, some of which have even more oil wealth than Dubai has. If it was all about oil wealth, why is this not the picture of all the other cities in the oil-rich world? It's not about wealth. It's not about fame. It's not about fortune. It's certainly not about position or title. It's about having that burning desire. It's about having that picture in your mind. And this picture of Dubai, let's go back to it. This picture of Dubai is something he conceived in his mind as a young lad when he was on top of the Empire State Building in the 60s with his father. and they had a chat amongst themselves, why can't our city be like this? And here we are. That, ladies and gentlemen, is leadership.
What?
So now the question is, what do we do with this? If you believe what you see on the screen, you're going to make your life very, very difficult. Because the moment you see a picture that is so powerful that it doesn't let you sleep, exactly that. It doesn't let you sleep. And your life becomes complicated. Your life becomes difficult. I was in blissful ignorance all this while. But now I've seen that picture and I can't sleep. Now I have to do something about it. That's the problem why most people don't like this definition of leadership. Because this requires that we have to do something. This requires that we don't sit still anymore. Now, whether you like it or not, this is leadership. The problem is, the moment you say, I want to create a better future, you have one constant companion from there on, and that constant companion is resistance. Because anybody that has tried to change anything around them knows, whether just in your family or just in your department or in your company or in your community or country, big or small, doesn't matter. Anybody that tries to change anything, all they get is resistance, resistance, and resistance. So the question now becomes, what do I do with this definition? All it does is loses me sleep, and it gets me nothing but resistance. So why should I believe this? The question is, what do these people have in common? Well, all of them are better future creators. All of them dedicated their lives to create a better future. Look at this man, Abraham Lincoln. He failed and he failed and he failed. He was a failed lawyer. He failed at I don't know how many businesses, and then he lost 8 elections before winning one. And yet, he didn't give up. And eventually went down to be one of the most influential people in the history of humankind. Look at this man here, Soichiro Honda. When he was trying to build his company, the Honda Motor Company that we know as today, twice his building was bombed during the World War, just when he finished constructing it. When he built his factory for the 3rd time after pawning his wife's jewelry, it was now destroyed for a 3rd time by an earthquake. Message from heaven, this is not for you. Give up. But no, he didn't give up. He kept going, tasting success for the first time, perhaps 20 years after trying and trying and trying. Wherever you look, anybody that has created a better future has faced resistance, has faced failure. So what these people have in common is not that they had not just that they had a burning desire to create a better future, but also they had something, a force inside, deep inside them, a force within that prevented them from giving up. And that force is what we call leadership energy. They have a deep reservoir of almost never-ending, almost a spiritual kind of energy that prevents them from giving up. And that is leadership energy. So leadership is about a burning desire to create a better future, and for leadership to survive and thrive, you need that force within, which we call leadership energy. So let's complete the definition. Leadership is the art of harnessing human energy towards the creation of a better future. So now the question becomes, where do people like Honda and Abraham Lincoln and Nelson Mandela, where do people like this find that long-lasting energy? How come that energy lasts for 27 years of wrongful imprisonment? Where does it come from? And many of you who've been with us before, you already know the answer. And those of you who are here with us for the first time, I'll give it to you really quickly. There are 2 primary sources of leadership energy. The first one is deep, deep clarity and conviction in your values. And I use the words clarity and conviction for a reason. Just being clear about what you stand for is not enough. Conviction means that I will never waver from these values no matter what happens. No matter what the cost to me, my family, or anybody, I will not give up on these values. That's what we mean by conviction. The leaders that you saw in the pictures you saw a few minutes ago, they were very clear. Not only clear, but they were also convinced that come what may, I will not give up this value. That's what we mean. For leadership energy to surface, you need that kind of conviction in values. And then from values, you go to and develop a sense of purpose in life. And once you have those two things, you're done. You're done. You've found your leadership energy. How it works is this. The first thing is to get clear and convicted in those values. What are those 4 or 5 or 6 things that I will never give up and never compromise no matter what? I ask a trick question sometimes. Under what circumstances will you be willing to compromise one of your deeply held values? And people they fall right into the trap, and they give all kinds of creative answers. Oh, if it hurts my family, I'll be willing to compromise it. Oh, if it's bad for my country, I will give up my values. And the point is, if you're willing to give it up even once, it is not a deeply held value. That's how strong the conviction has to be. Now, as your awareness about your values deepens, as you become more and more aware of who you are, because your values determine your identity, day-to-day life happens. Day-to-day situations happen. And your values intersect with day-to-day situations of life. And it is at this intersection of your values and day-to-day life is when energy is produced. So every situation in life is either a match or a mismatch between one of your deeply held values. If it's a mismatch, you're going to get negative energy like anger. If it's a match, you're going to get positive energy like joy or happiness. Either which way, that is why this energy that is produced at the intersection of values and life is what enables you to act or not act. Yeah? So that's the leadership energy that we are talking about. And for some people, as you begin to recognize what gives you energy, what gives you more energy, what gives you less energy, as you start to recognize that, for some people, they are able to convert some of that energy into purpose. And if your purpose is derived directly from your values, then it becomes fearless purpose. Then it becomes fearless purpose. Then Nelson Mandela is not scared even after 27 years of prison. Then Soichiro Honda is not scared even after failing for 20 years. Then Gandhi is not scared even if they beat him up, even if they kill him. Gandhi used to say, for this purpose, the purpose of getting independence for India, for this purpose I am prepared to die, but there is no purpose for which I am prepared to kill. Because his purpose of obtaining independence was based on the values of nonviolence, humility, and truth. Under no circumstances will I kill and resort to violence, even if we don't get independence. Now you don't have fear. They may break my bones. They may put me in jail, even kill me, but then they will have my body, not my obedience. That's the kind of courage you get when your purpose is based on your values. Unfortunately, though, ladies and gentlemen, very few people in the world have such clarity and conviction, or rather have this leadership energy based on their values and their purpose. Very few people. It's impossible. We've been asking this question for almost 15 years now around the world. What's your purpose? And most people stumble. Most people stumble. Very few people are able to crisply answer. And my question is, if you don't have a sense of purpose, how will you ever feel successful? Without a sense of purpose, all you will do is chase power and product. And if that's all you do, you will chase and chase and chase all your life, and happiness and success will be still elusive. Values, clarity gives you happiness. Purpose, clarity gives you a sense of success. Without that, both of those things are not possible. Yet, most people are not able to answer these two questions. Why are we not able to answer these questions? Because we are very busy. We don't have time to ask these questions. Who has time for all these philosophical kinds of questions? We are too busy. And my retort to that is, yes, you are busy, but you are busy in the business of busyness. Here is what life has become. This is how busy we have become. Watch.
In today's modern world, you can watch what you're doing, or you can watch where you're going, but you can't do both. And now, you don't have to, thanks to Guiding Hands. At Guiding Hands, we understand how important it is to stay connected when you're on the go. Simply request a guiding hand, And within seconds, we'll be at your side, ready to guide you to your destination. Let us navigate your world so you can navigate the web. Your guiding hand will take care of all the pesky distractions that once forced you to look up. We look out for you so you can keep an eye on the things that matter most. Enjoy the security that comes in knowing you are finally, truly connected. Guiding hands. We got this.
So I cut out and edited the last part of this video because it ends in the bedroom. But jokes aside, this is what life has come to, right? We are so connected to our devices. One of the speakers in this conference 2 years ago said, we are so connected to our devices that we are totally disconnected with other people and even less connected with our inner selves, because we are more connected with our devices than with people and than with ourselves. And therefore, we are going through a huge crisis of disconnection, he said. And that's the problem why we don't ask ourselves the basic questions about life. What are my values? What is my purpose? And then we wonder, why are we not happy? And why don't I feel successful despite all my other material trappings of success? Ladies and gentlemen, the question we at eClipse ask is, if you don't have time to ask these questions, then what do you have time for? So, to conclude, I'll come back to you with more tomorrow and in between the sessions. Basically, values and purpose form the baseline of leadership energy. And we here believe that there might be another, even more powerful source of leadership energy, which we call the third source of leadership energy, and that is the power of the human mind, human thought, human attention, human intention. Is it true that you can harness the power of your mind to make the impossible happen? And today, we will be looking at, today and tomorrow, we will not only be looking at values and purpose stories and stories of endurance and stories of leadership energy, but also we'll be hearing from some of the speakers about the power of the mind. I'll walk you through the agenda in just a minute, but this is the story of leadership energy at the personal level. What you see on the screen behind me is leadership energy at the personal level. Deep, deep clarity and conviction on values, converted into a purpose, and then also the ability to harness the power of the mind, attention, intention, and thought in order to turbocharge your leadership energy. But what about the need for leaders to energize the hundreds and thousands of people that work in their enterprises or in their communities, wherever your leadership is? If you work for the government, it's the whole country. If you work for a company, it's all the employees in your company. How do you harness the energy of all the people in your leadership scope? That's the other kind of energy. And in the past, this conference has only talked about personal leadership energy. This year, we will also bring you some stories, some ideas, some research on organizational or enterprise leadership energy. Once you've found your own leadership energy, how do you harness the energy of the thousands, or the hundreds of thousands for that matter, of people that work with you and for you?